The 8th-ranked Crimson Tide will take on the Kentucky Wildcats this week in Lexington. Saturday's matchup will be the 42nd meeting between the two schools, but Kentucky has defeated the Tide only twice, both times in Lexington. The first time way back in 1922, and the last was back in 1997, a 40-34 overtime win.
Alabama leads the all-time series 38-2 with one tie. The last time the two teams met was back in 2020 in Tuscaloosa. Alabama thoroughly dominated Kentucky 63-3 as the Tide rolled to their 18th national championship with a 52-24 win over Ohio State. The Wildcats entered the matchup with the Tide 6-3 and 3-3 in conference play. Kentucky started the season 5-0 and was ranked as high as 20th after a 33-14 win over number 22 Florida in Lexington. After that win over the Gators, the Wildcats lost 3 in a row to the top 3 teams in the SEC East, Georgia, Missouri, and Tennessee, but got back in the win column last week with a 24-3 win over Mississippi State in Starkville. The Wildcats have a new quarterback this season in senior Devin Leary. After playing 4 years at North Carolina State, Leary joined the Wildcats this season and is starting to play some of his best football of the year. In Leary's last 2 games against Tennessee and Mississippi State, he completed 41 of 61, averaging 264 yards per game with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. The Wildcats also have a dangerous rushing attack as they have the highest rushing total in a single game this season. Kentucky rushed for 329 yards in that win over the Florida Gators. Leading that rushing attack is the second leading rusher in the SEC. Ray Davis averages just over 100 yards per game with 9 rushing touchdowns on the year. Davis also has the highest single-game rushing total in the SEC this season as he totaled 280 yards in that 33-14 win over Florida. The strength of the Wildcats' defense has been stopping the run. Kentucky allows just 110 yards per game. That's 9 yards better than the Crimson Tide. Kentucky is also 6th in the SEC in scoring defense, allowing just 5 more points per game than the Crimson Tide at 22 points per game. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe will have to be on the lookout for defensive back Maxwell Hairston. Hairston leads the SEC and is second in the nation with 5 interceptions and also leads the conference with 2 interceptions returned for touchdown. In the past, the Crimson Tide led the nation in defensive touchdowns, but it's the Wildcats that lead the nation this year. Kentucky is tied for first in all of college football with 4 defensive touchdowns, 3 of those being interceptions returned for touchdown with 1 fumble return.
With a win over the Wildcats or an Ole Miss loss to the Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama will win the SEC Western Division title and earn a berth in the SEC Championship game in Atlanta. Reporting from the Crimson Tide Production Studio inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, I'm Christopher England with Tide TV.